1:30 is the time. Let's talk about this. Karl Te Nana, former Sevens captain, gold medalist, is on the side of the Sky Sport. Thanks for joining us again, mate.
Morning, bro. Always a pleasure, my man.
Two big semi-finals coming this weekend. Crusaders Blues to start with. Tell me why the Blues could win this match tonight.
I think the offense is quite explosive. It's probably one of the most explosive offensive teams bar the Chiefs, So the last 3 weeks when they've been on their run, they've shown it, and when they do get it right, they're tough to stop. But whether they can do that for the full 80, as you know, when you're going down to Christchurch, that's what you got to do. And I sort of think like styles make fights in terms of that. So I think that's exactly what we're going to get tonight. We've got an offensive team in the Blues versus a defensive team in the Crusaders. And we know down there, it's a fortress, they haven't lost a playoff there ever, blah, blah, blah. But I think this is a very different Crusaders group. They've got a number of injuries. And I think they've battled their way to get to this point. But it'd be interesting whether the Blues can stick to it to 80 minutes. And I think that's going to be the test. If they can, then they're going to be very, very close.
Two games this year, it was very close at Eden Park. Remember, they got over the try line, the Blues, 3 or 4 times, and they just couldn't get the ball down. And right at the end as well, that they had a chance to win that game. And then it was a real defensive effort. I think 15-3 the score, and round 12 was that second game. So this isn't a Crusaders side that is invincible.
No, exactly right, and I think that's the thing that will keep the Blues, will give them a lot of confidence. Exactly what you've spoken about. They've gone down there, they didn't score a try, 15-3, but I think in the last month they've found their groove in terms of that. So I think they're starting to find a way that works for them in terms of how they attack different teams, and they're going to have to break a pretty staunch defence. So I think that's the thing they'll be hanging their head on, but it's just whether they can, like you say, create the opportunities, and now those opportunities like they created in the first game here at Eden Park, they did get over the line, but it was pretty staunch defence by the Crusaders, scrambling defence. In fact, that kept them in the game. That's always going to be the way it is, especially when you go down there. So as long as they've got that mindset, once they've got to take their opportunities when they present themselves, and that's finals football, then they'll be very, very close.
Are they going to have to play their best game of the season tonight, the Blues?
Yeah, I think so. I think just watching the Chiefs, Marty, last week, they found a different way to win against the Reds, and it was I loved it because it was a bit of an old school when we were watching the old Canterbury, the Waikato sort of teams from old, that you just have to be staunch, you have to be tough, and I think that's what's going to make the difference of teams that progress through the semi-final. I think that's what the Blues need to show. If they're going to be real title contenders, they're going to have to play tough tonight.
So we know what they can do offense-wise, and, in Mark Talia, they've got a guy that's just been incredible this year. I mean, he can score every single try under the sun, can't he? But it's just, do they have the patience? Do they have the togetherness? And what I'm, I suppose, getting at is, can they play totally as a team?
I think that's where you get your return on the likes of Bowden Barrett. I think him and Zahn Sullivan, they've got to be able to kick properly, and they've got to be able to kick well. They can't just kick for the sake of kicking. And I think that's where the Chiefs have got it right. I think that's where Richie Mo'unga and Will Jordan get it right. So the Blues have to show that they do, A, have the patience, and B, can kick well, and whether it be attacking kicks, whether it be exiting long properly. They can't give the Crusaders opportunities in their own half, and they're going to have to be disciplined in terms of what they do at ruck time, because the Crusaders are going to challenge there. They're going to tread the line there, and the Blues have to be disciplined in that aspect of the game if they're going to have any show, and they have to make their kicks. I think that's one thing, Marty, the Blues got away with against the Hurricanes in particular, but they have to make their kicks off the tee.
All right, okay, call it then. What are you thinking tonight? Because I'm looking at a Crusaders side. They're missing at least 7 guys that you would think would be first-choice players. And so, I don't know, I just feel like this dynasty's going to come to an end, whether it's this week or next week, and they'll probably completely prove me wrong. But what's your call tonight on this one?
I would love to say the Blues, but I just get the feeling like, and been in that position, I just think defence wins championships, and that's why they're so good. And I think regardless of their next man up mentality, regardless who jumps in that jersey tonight, they all know their systems, and that's what makes them so good. So I just think it's going to be a defensive battle, and the way the weather's turning, I think it's going to suit the Crusaders. So I think they just pip it.
Karl Te Nana is with us. We're talking Super Rugby semi-finals. First one tonight, 7:05 Crusaders Blues, and then tomorrow night, same time, Chiefs versus Brumbies. Was that? It wasn't a hiccup last week, but it was perhaps one of the 2 unconvincing performances of the season for the Chiefs. Did they need that? Did that come at the right time?
I think so. And you can't underestimate what Brad Thorne brings and his experience, and he came with a game plan, and it suited what he had at that time and what he had to deal with in terms of his players. So they actually isolated the Chiefs to a large degree. That's so they couldn't get their flow on, and they targeted certain areas so it would either stop the flow at ruck time, or they get turnovers, or it just made it niggly for the Chiefs. But I just think the Chiefs showed their quality. Yeah, it wasn't the best performance, but they had to grind it out, and you have to win in different ways in finals football, and I think they adapted to that probably the best I've seen. And, like the other two teams, in terms of the Blues and Crusaders, yeah, they had blowouts, but I don't think they've shown what the Chiefs showed last week in terms of how the Chiefs were able to be physical and own the middle of the park for 80 minutes. It was pretty impressive. I know it was old school, but they kicked well, they defended well, and when they did get opportunities, they smashed it, they nailed it with the likes of John Stevenson and Monty Narawa. So I think they're in a good place. They needed their performance last week, and they showed that they can win an arm wrestle, and they showed already this season that they can win quite spectacularly as well, scoring points.
Yeah, look, I go back to that game against against the Blues there in Hamilton, where they basically won defending. They won playing like what we'd expect the Crusaders to play. They won without the ball. That to me is their most impressive performance all year, because we know what they can do with the ball, but it's winning without the ball, as you've been saying, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And then that's what you have to do sometimes. You have to knuckle down in finals football, because it's very small margins. Everything gets a lot tougher. I mean, the analysis that goes in. And I just think, Marty, like in finals football, everything's a lot more structured, so it's easier to break down and dissect teams. And I think that's the difference. And I just think the Chiefs at the moment, the amount of weapons that they have, they've got a grunty front eight, but the weapons they have out wide, it can come from anywhere, would it be 9 all the way out to 15, and that's the problem for opposing teams. They only need one sniff and they're done. But they'll strike real quick.
One thing about watching the Hurricanes versus the Brumbies last week, and don't even start me on Artie's try, mate, because it was a try, and we all know it was a try, mate. Eh?
Yes, thank you.
And the great man says it's a try. He's an honest man. He's also a beautiful man. It's a bloody try. But one thing about that, and the Chiefs would have been licking their lips, is how many times did the Hurricanes just run straight through the middle of it? I know the Brumbies did it back, but this is, you're looking at this Brumbies side tonight. The Hurricanes went through the middle, and the Chiefs would have been watching that.
Yeah, 100%. I think so too, and Brumbies are tough to play away, but I'm with you. The way the Hurricanes are able to dismantle them to a degree, I think the Chiefs would have definitely seen that in their previews. So I think that's something maybe they'll target. I know Roger Randall, in terms of attack, will be definitely looking at that. I know he likes to attack on the edges, but you've got to own the middle of the park, and I think that's somewhere that the Chiefs don't mind going if they need to, right?
KT, one of the other things is that, as well, I love talking to you, mate, because you've been in this and these are the kind of games, as a player, you must want to play. I remember Sir Alex Ferguson saying there's no shrinking violets in our dressing room. You can't be afraid of this, or you can't be afraid of the outcome. Is that how you feel about it as well? You've got to puff your chest and you've got to own this stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And this is why you've worked 16 weeks around Robin to get to this point. This is where you want to be, and this is where you stand up, and this is where you earn your stripes, as we used to say, comes down to big moments. You want to be in those moments, and you want to have the ball in your hands in those moments. So the players that are able to adapt to that, embrace that, I suppose, are the ones that punch through and get the results. I think as a player, this is totally what you want. As a coach, this is totally what you want, and this is what you thrive on and play for.
So you didn't, when you were playing in these high-level games, gold medal matches, everything else, you didn't feel fear? Was there nervousness or fear, or did you just go out there and say, this is mine, right? This is why I play?
Oh, this is the mental part of it. This is what I love, Marty. I'll be honest. I love the mental aspect of the game, and really, it's just something that helps you zone in, and you forget about everything else. Forget about, I think, and Richie McCaw's probably the master at it. You're able to block out the noise and concentrate on your job. And I think the ones that are able to just keep it simple and simplify it, regardless of the enormity and the result, are the ones that perform. You can't worry about the 80th minute. You have to worry about the first minute, which is right in front of you, and then you go on to the next job, you go on to the next job. So the ones that can compartmentalize that and execute under those pressure situations are the ones that get the results, and that's what you test yourself on, and that's always a challenge, and that's what you love to do.
So when it started the season, remember, let's go back to that very first opening match, and that was a Friday night, and the Chiefs went down to Christchurch, and they blanked them in that second half, and kind of just, I think, shocked the whole competition. It was like, my God, okay, because we just all expect the Crusaders to be the Crusaders. Are they still the best two teams for you that have come out? They're 1 and 2, I know, but with everything that you've looked at, and you've watched a hell of a lot of it this year, the Chiefs and the Crusaders, the two teams that you think should be in the final because they're the better teams?
Definitely the Chiefs. I think they've been the front runners the whole time, and just the way they've evolved through the competition, I think definitely head and shoulders that they've come good. And you've got to remember too, the Chiefs a couple of years ago hardly won a bloody game.
Yes, that's right.
So
Under
the way they've
Gatlin,
been
that's
able
right,
to, and the way they've Clayton's got that team together, those young guys. It's still a young bunch, but he's given them a platform to be themselves and thrive, and they're flourishing now, and I think we can't underestimate what he's done in terms of building that franchise back up. I think that's what's probably set them apart than everyone else. And we know the system that the Crusaders are, and anyone who goes down there and they buy into the system is very player-led, and that's why it's been the secret of their success. And they do things proper, like even the way they recruit players is very Americanized, and the way they get the appearance in and do all the stuff in behind the scenes, you can see why they're such a good franchise and have been for a long time. So, it's those, I think, not by fluke, that these two teams are going to be there or thereabouts at next week.
And finally, completely different topic. How good are the Wars this year, mate? You loving that too?
Oh, bro, yeah, I've been a massive fan. I remember playing on a Saturday and going watching the Wars on a Sunday.
Go on.
Oh, bro, love it. I used to get a bit of stick when I was sitting up there, the old fans saying, "What are you doing here, Union boy?" and all that sort of rubbish. But, hey, can you tackle? No, that's why I'm watching.
I'm sure you gave as good as you got. It's just fun, isn't it, mate? It's just fun watching them at the moment.
Oh, bro, I went and watched that Dolphins game, and just the vibe there, and the buzz around the team, and it's just so mean to watch. Like that group, we talk about the franchises of the union teams. I think they've got the right people in the right place at the moment upstairs, and are starting to filter down. And obviously, coach is doing an awesome job with this young group of boys, and he's changed the mentality, and that's what's awesome to see. And like anything, their defense is mean, and I think it's starting to show on the offensive side of the ball. And Fanua Blake, and he's starting to roll too. So it's just really cool to see them thrive. And obviously, they're doing some mean yards and getting some results. So I don't think it's by fluke.
Devlin.
Oh my goodness me!
The platform.